Hyrox athletes, do you want to run faster, recover better? Well, I'm going to break down zones 1 to 5 quicker than you can say hybrid rockstar. I've coached hybrid athletes for over 15 years, and if there's one thing that separates the good from the great, it's how you use your training zones. Today, we're deep diving into the 5 aerobic zones, from the physiological targets, the feel, the intensities, and of course, a bunch of workouts recommended by the best in the business. So this is my pyramid of aerobic gains, and first up, we're going to start right at the top. Zone 5, the VO2 max zone, also known as peak aerobic power. Its purpose, maximum oxygen uptake, increased stroke volume, and fatigue tolerance at the top end. Think of this as your aerobic ceiling, intensities between 90 to 100% of maximum heart rate. In terms of rate of perceived exertion, RPE, we're looking at like an 8 or 9 out of 10, sometimes even a 10 out of 10. So this is hard work. Now, typically when you're doing these type of workouts, intervals need to be between 1 to 3 minutes in time and be broken up with static or slow active recoveries. From a physiological perspective, it's where the body will burn all of the available oxygen to fuel the aerobic energy system. It's also really important to remember that we can run faster than this VO2 max pace. However, if we do that, it's then with the contribution of the anaerobic system and therefore above anaerobic threshold. So when you're doing these type of fast intervals, an acidic environment is created in the bloodstream and the working muscles due to the accumulation of hydrogen ions, making the pace only sustainable for a short period of time, 1 to 3 minutes or so. So fatigue is caused by not only the cardiovascular system, but also the anaerobic system, those hydrogen ions, due to an unsustainable demand of oxygen. So like I said, that could be 1, 2, 3 minute intervals, spaced with 1 to 2 minutes of recovery. Now, I love to implement this type of work for my Hyrox athletes using what I call a hybrid interval model. Air bike sprints, sled pushes, sled pulls, ergs, broad jumps, short, sharp bursts of high intensity power, alactic sprint intervals. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I'll post a video up here somewhere. You can learn about energy system development. So you're stressing multiple energy systems, but VO2 max is still the primary focus. If you're down the track and you want to work on your VO2 max when it comes to running, you could do 4 to 6 sets of 5 to 800 meter repeats at a 3 to 5K pace with 2 to 3 minutes of rest in between. Focus on form under fatigue, driving those arms and getting those knees nice and high. Now, this VO2 max zone is very stressful for the body. So I highly recommend you control the dose with HRV guidance. So if you are able to track your heart rate variability, you'll be able to see the trends week to week, day to day as you go forward. You should also alternate these VO2 max days with low intensity days. So if this is a high stress day, the next day will be a low stress day, so that could be a zone 1 or 2 swim, cycle, jog, and that's just going to help you recover a little bit better after these high intensity days. And that's called a high-low system. I'm currently using that with 2 of my athletes who are at the World Championships this year in Chicago. So here's a cool little insight into the science and the research of VO2 max training. For average athletes, raising your VO2 max is a great way to raise performance. However, for the elite or well-trained athletes, race outcomes don't always correlate with high VO2 max scores. There's something called fractional utilization rate, and it's the percentage of your VO2 max that you can maintain for long periods of time. This means you can have 2 athletes who have the same VO2 max scores, but the one who can sustain a higher percentage of it during their race will often be the one who wins the race. And I can guarantee you that there are many athletes outside of the top 15, elite 15 in the world that probably have higher VO2 max scores right now than some of those people in the elite 15. However, for most of you watching this video right now, you've probably still got room to improve your VO2 max, which will help you with your performance. So next up, we got zone 4. This is your threshold zone, and this is going to raise your aerobic performance capacity, all right? This is the anaerobic threshold zone. You're gonna boost your aerobic capacity and power and improve your ability to buffer lactate. Intensity, we're looking at sort of 80 to 90% of maximum heart rate and a 7 or 8 on perceived exertion. Now, typically we're looking at longer efforts here, 4 or 5 minutes or more, broken up with easy, steady recovery runs in between, or a continuous run that's less than 30 minutes in total. If you want to train the zone in the gym, use wall balls, rowers, sleds, ski ergs, bikes, 5 to 12 minutes of continuous rounds. I'm thinking EMOMs, AMRAPs, and circuits. From a physiological perspective, this is the pace where your body is using almost all of the oxygen available to power that aerobic system, which means there is still oxygen available to help buffer that acidic environment, which is built up, those hydrogen ions within the muscles and the bloodstream by the anaerobic system. So yes, those hydrogen ions will have built up in the bloodstream and the muscles, but more importantly, they do not accumulate to a point that stops you working. And we call this zone that red line zone because any slight increase in that threshold pace, and you're going to pay the price. You're going to go from what was sustainable to an unsustainable pace for that period of time. So fatigue is caused in the zone by the cardiovascular sources due to the high demand of oxygen. For well-trained Hyrox athletes, there is a significant correlation between raising your anaerobic threshold and performance times. So for some of you, raising your anaerobic threshold is going to be more important than just trying to raise this VO2 max. So pulling up that anaerobic threshold, this zone 4, should be a top priority for you. Next up, we've got zone 3, tempo zone. I call this the durability zone. This is going to improve the aerobic strength. Now, this is the pace that sits between your anaerobic threshold and your aerobic threshold, which is zone 2. We're going to get onto this aerobic threshold. So this is your anaerobic threshold and this is your aerobic threshold. Tempo sits right in between that. The purpose of zone 3 tempo training is to improve aerobic capacity, aerobic strength, but also muscular endurance and the durability at moderate intensities. So for intensity, we're looking at that heart rate to sit between sort of 75 and 85% of maximum and an RPE of about 6 or 7 out of 10 or so. Typically, these are longer efforts, 8 minutes or more, or a continuous run between 30 to 60 minutes or so. Here, your body will be producing acidic hydrogen ions, but due to the moderate demand of oxygen to power that aerobic system, they can easily be buffered and not accumulate in the blood or the working muscle. So if you're running, this could be tempo intervals, 3 sets of 12 minutes with 2 minutes of steady, slow recovery in between. Or if you're in the gym, it could be a 30 to 60 minute training circuit where you keep within the heart rate parameters. So it's a moderate intensity zone. And I'm saying like medium, moderate intensity. However, for some of you, this will be quite difficult, especially if you're coming from a weightlifting background, powerlifting background, you like to lift heavy weights, do explosive movements. A lot of weight training is anaerobic dominant. So coming into this territory can be very, very hard physically and mentally. And that's just because you're probably very fast twitch dominant, very anaerobic dominant. And that's why I call it the durability zone. So tempo running, tempo training is the junction point where fatigue will come from both the cardiovascular system due to the moderate demand in oxygen, but also the muscular sources due to the time being spent on the legs. Okay, so next up we've got zone 2, which is that easy, steady zone. Now this pace, like I mentioned earlier, aligns with your aerobic threshold. At this easy pace, it's also a steady pace. There will be some hydrogen ions that are being produced. However, instantaneously, they're buffered out due to such a low demand of oxygen on the aerobic system. So this is recommended to be the quickest pace for any long continuous run. So that could be steady run, recovery run, or easy run. So if you do not go above this aerobic threshold, what will stop you running will be muscular fatigue, or if you go long enough, it will be nutritional fatigue. Now, when you're training this zone, there is a very high risk-reward ratio, meaning we can acquire significant amounts of aerobic adaptation with minimal fatigue. So it also allows us to build significant amounts of fitness with a very, very low risk of injury. And guys, 50% of runners get injured every single year. So make sure you watch all my other strength training videos to make sure that's not you getting injured. Now, the purpose of this zone 2, build mitochondrial density, fat oxidation, capillary growth, among many, many other things. From an intensity perspective, we're looking at anywhere between 50% up to 75% of maximum heart rate. On a rate of perceived exertion score, we're looking at sort of 2 to 4 out of 10. It should be easy, it should be conversational. Some people should be able to breathe nasal only when they do it. And last but not least, we've got zone 1, which is your recovery zone, also known as your easy recovery zone. So like I said there, zone 2 is steady and easy. Zone 1 is recovery and easy. So this is a pace that sits below your aerobic threshold. As the word suggests, this assists with your recovery. So just as this is the fastest pace you should be doing for any continuous runs, easy runs, long runs, this is the slowest pace that you should be able to do for continuous runs. If you cannot sustain your easy recovery pace, then it's a sign that you need to rest from the stress that your body is currently under. So just because there is a recovery run planned in your week, if you cannot do it because you feel tired, labored, fatigued, your legs are heavy, then you need to walk or you need to take a complete rest day, okay? Because you're just gonna impact the body even more and dump more fatigue into the body. It's a recovery day for a purpose. The recovery day is to help you have better high quality sessions. So here's a few coaching tips for when it comes to running. Your warm up and your cool downs need to be done in zone 1 and 2. Now this zone here, easy or steady, it's a real simple way to accumulate volume and time on the legs for minimal fatigue. And those long runs that you do are basically a combination of either zone 1 and 2, just for longer extended periods to build time on the legs. So if you are doing a long run, don't force it. So Hyrox athletes, make sure you know your training zones, start training smart. Zones 1 to 2, build your base, help your recovery. Zone 3, toughen you up a little bit more. Zone 4, raise your anaerobic threshold. And zone 5, the topping on the cake. Make sure you structure your week with a mix of each and watch your performance soar. Guys, I'm thinking about doing a program critique. If you want me to go through your program, critique it, make it more effective, make it better for you to do, then drop your email in the description below. I'll be selecting a few people to go through, turn it into a video, and to help you all for free, okay? You don't have to pay anything, all for free. I'm going to be helping you guys train more effectively. So if you want to do that, drop your email down below, and otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.